And then also I want to introduce you to Andrea Donsky, who is with me from Jazz at Lincoln Center in New York. And she, very interestingly, is a holistic nutritionist, which I kind of want to understand exactly what a holistic nutritionist is. But she has some tips on mood-enhancing eating habits and energy-boosting foods for men and women. And certainly that during this time of year where it's easy to feel down and sluggish and your exercise is at a minimum and you may have the winter blues because you're not getting enough sunlight and nice weather. And, food evidently definitely affects your mood. So anyway, she's also the founder of something called Naturally Savvy, which is devoted to educating people about living naturally healthy lifestyles. So welcome, Andrea Donsky.
Thank you for having me.
Now, what is a holistic nutritionist? Let's just start there.
Sure. We look at the body from a whole part. So we look at the mind, the body, and the spirit.
And how does food, and so what does a nutritionist for the mind, body, and spirit do?
So we look at how food not only affects us physically, but also how it affects us emotionally.
Okay.
So, yes, we take everything into account.
And is this a sort of a term that I like it? I mean, it makes sense, and we're going to talk about exactly what that means. But is this a term you came up with, or is there a whole new school of thought of holistic nutrition and mood enhancement through nutrition and that sort of thing?
Yeah, no, I didn't come up with it. There's a whole school of thought, and I went to a school specific for holistic training.
Huh. Interesting. I never even knew about that. All right. Well, should we go to break? So, yeah, let's go to break, and then I'm going to talk to Andrea about different foods. I want to ask her also about the role of how foods can not only diminish depression, but also possibly make depression worse. So, Lisa, my little Facebook friend, listen into this, because maybe you won't need this, Alexa, if you do some holistic nutrition. I don't know. I'm not telling you to get off your medication, so don't think that. But it certainly can fight. All right, we'll be right back on the Dr. Laura Berman Show. Give us a call if you have any questions, especially about food and sex and life and your mood and things you're struggling with around food. We got lots to talk about today on the Dr. Laura Berman Show. Food and sex, what could be better? Give me a call at 866-OPRA-XM, 866-677-2496. All right, we're talking about holistic nutrition, food, and your mood. Maybe I can get Andrea Donsky, who's with us, to talk about food and sex, although I know that's not her expertise. She is a holistic nutritionist. I'm also still madly accepting my little new friends on Facebook on the commercial breaks. And there's a cute one from Rhonda who says, thanks to you, I'm finally overcoming all my fears and negative thoughts about nice girls. Don't do that. She says she's married her soulmate, that listening to the show has helped her build her confidence, and that she's still a good girl, even if she's sexy, and that she recently ordered a pair of vibrating panties for his Valentine's Day present, and they had a great time with it. So what else? Oh, she's asking about the sex swing. What's your opinion? Wow, Rhonda's getting wild and crazy. What's your opinion of the sex swing? I'm thinking about that being our next adventure. So I think the sex swing, if I'm understanding you correctly, is it's like a swing, basically, that hangs from the ceiling, or it can go on a stand. And it basically supports you so that you can, and it has all these pulleys that you can put your legs and arms in, and so you can get in all these funky positions while you're supported up in the air at the level of your male partner's genitals, or the two of you could get in the swing. I don't know. To be quite frank, I've never tried the swing, so, and I don't really, I can't, I mean, I've talked to people who think it's great, but I have never talked to anyone who's actually used it. So maybe you can be our guinea pig. You get the sex swing and let me know how you liked it, and then we can talk about it. All right, so back to, I know Andrea's like, what in the hell did I get myself into? I came on here to talk about mood and sex. I mean, mood and food, not mood and sex. Have you ever tried the swing, Andrea?
I have not tried it myself, but it sounds great.
All right, so Andrea Donsky is a holistic nutritionist, and she has founded a company or an organization called Naturally Savvy, devoted to educating people about living naturally and healthy lifestyle. And so here's my question. What is mood-enhancing eating habits? Is that quantity, quality, or the actual foods, or all three?
Well, it could be definitely all three, but what we like to focus on is when you're eating and what you're eating. So because there is a connection between our food and our mood and how we behave.
Right.
So it's important that we have certain habits that will help enhance our moods and keep us from being stressed all the time.
Right. And what do you mean by habits? When we eat or how we eat? Like where we are when we eat?
Definitely when we eat and how we eat. So it would be both.
All right. So let's start there, and then we'll get into the other elements of mood enhancement and food. So how you eat. Let's talk about that.
So the one thing we really want to be mindful of is our blood sugar levels. Because really when our blood sugar levels are out of whack or they're imbalanced, then that can affect our mood in a negative way. So we can become irritable, we can become moody. So it's really important that we keep our blood sugar levels very, very low.
And as women get in perimenopause and menopause, those insulin and cortisol levels get all out of balance too. So their body's relationship with sugar changes, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
So one of the most important things that we like to recommend at naturallysavvy.com is that we eat protein, and we start our day off with protein. So whether that be eggs for breakfast, cottage cheese, tofu, some type of protein that's going to help energize our brain. It's going to wake up our brain, and it's also going to stabilize our blood sugars for the day and give us energy that we need.
Okay. And then what about like the style? So do you subscribe to the 5 small meals a day plan? You do?
Yes, I do. And I think it's important as opposed to 3 larger meals, definitely 5 to 6 small mini meals a day. Grazing, another great point is to graze throughout the day. Carry snacks in your purse. We're all busy. We're on the go. Nuts and seeds, raw fruits and vegetables. Those are really great ways to keep our energy levels high and also to stabilize our blood sugar levels.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, look, she's fighting cancer right now, so it's not like she's a picture of health. But my mother has, up until she started with all this cancer junk, has been really the picture of health. And I've always been extremely jealous of how thin she is. She's just never had a problem staying thin, even through perimenopause and menopause. And that's how she eats. My whole life, that's how she doesn't, in fact, by the time dinner would come, she was always saying, I'm full, because she had eaten during the preparation of dinner small little pieces of all the food she was cooking. And then in the afternoon, she'd have like a cheese or something. And then early, she ate 5 small meals. This was in the 70s and 80s,
Well, she's very smart, and she's a great role model, because that's exactly the way we should be eating. And that way we don't feel so heavy either. And that, when we eat a lot at once, we don't feel so heavy either. So it's important that we really, feel that lightness, and that's why fruits and vegetables will keep us feeling, level and also very light.
And when you talk about how, I'm not sure, I know that, like, for instance, watching television while you eat will help create kind of an unconsciousness that might lead you to eat more or not notice when you're full or something like that. But is there a mood component to the setting or the circumstances under which you eat?
Oh, definitely. I mean, it's very important. A lot of experts say to eat in a very quiet environment. So that way, we're focused specifically on our food as opposed to all of the distractions around us. It can actually make us more stressed. And then when we're stressed, what happens is our digestive systems are actually influenced by that. And then we can get, gas and bloating. So yes, definitely our environment is really important when we're eating. So just to be very calm and relaxed and have, set the mood.
Does that mean you shouldn't go to a busy restaurant if it's supposed to be quiet when you eat?
No, I mean, you're talking for what we do most of the time.
Okay.
So it's the 80-20 rule.
Okay.
So really when we're at home, it's really just setting the mood, putting on some nice music, and just so that we're not, there's no stress around us in our environment, which can actually disturb our digestive system.
Okay. And by the way, if you have a question about food or diet, I got a nutritionist here, not only about food and mood, but maybe she can weigh in if you're struggling with how to eat in other areas to lose weight or to deal with something else. One of the things that I do want to pick your brain about, I know I want to stay on the mood food thing for a little bit longer, but just from the cancer standpoint and in general, just put this in the back of your mind, I want to pick your brain about immunity enhancing foods, like foods that help your immune system and mostly not so much helping. I know there's lots of foods that help prevent cancer or are thought to help prevent cancer, but the foods that you eat while you're going through cancer treatment. Like I remember when my oldest son, my 13-year-old, had leukemia when he was 3. And I was looking everywhere. I was asking the hospital nutritionist. I was in L.A. I was asking every nutritionist I met. And Lord knows there's a lot of nutritionists in L.A. Like how, as a mother, you're just so desperate to be able to do something,
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, maybe I can just help him be, are there foods that I can give him that will boost his immune system because his immune system would crash, and then he'd have to stop chemo, and then he'd be, come back and he'd start it again. He was like on this yo-yo. And so that is something else I wanted to ask you. But in the meantime, the other thing I've noticed with him, because he's had a lot of mood issues as a result primarily of having had all this chemo that affected his brain, and we've made great strides just dealing with that medically, but I definitely have noticed that when he is depressed, he only or when he's just feeling low or anxious, he only wants starchy foods. So, like, what is because I've also read recently, which really put off a bell in my head, putting those pieces together, what is it about carbohydrates or simple carbs that affect, is it the serotonin levels in the brain? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, it's the serotonin levels in the brain.
Okay, so tell me how that works, because I don't know what I'm talking about.
It's the serotonin levels in the brain. So carbohydrates convert to sugar, which, raise our blood sugar levels. And then what happens, though, is that they raise really quickly and then they fall really quickly. Mm-hmm. So the immediate effect is that we're satisfying our craving, but the long-term effect is actually that we're creating a little bit of havoc in our body.
Yeah, and in your mind. And so is it true that people... when you're craving a lot of carbs, it may be that you're unconsciously, your body's trying to regulate your serotonin levels and you're probably feeling a little depressed, or you may be feeling a little depressed?
It could be, yeah, there definitely could be. Or there can also be a lack of certain nutrients in somebody's body, or it can even be that they're sensitive to it. So there's different ways.
Carbs.
Yeah, sensitive to the carbs. I've done a lot about food allergies, and one of the things they say is that if you're actually craving something, it can mean that you're actually sensitive to it.
Why? Well, how come? What's the rationale there? You don't know?
Something to do with our digestive system, yeah.
Huh. That's interesting. I wouldn't have thought that. But I have thought about, like, what's going on in my body. Because I definitely, I remember when I was pregnant, I'd be like, oh, my gosh, I must have yogurt right now, or I have to have strawberries. And I always thought, like, it sort of reminded me, I don't know if you remember that cheesy movie, Look Who's Talking. Remember that about the babies talking? I loved that movie. But the scene in the beginning where they have the cartoon baby yanking on the umbilical cord, hey, get me some nachos in here. That's what I always imagined, but I kind of felt like it was my body saying I need some calcium or I need some vitamin C and I still feel that sometimes when I have like a hankering for something. Is that typically your body needing it?
It could
maybe it's emotional too. But.
It could be many different things. But yeah, it could be that your body is craving it and that it does need it. So it could be different reasons, and that's why it's really important that we get to know our bodies really well, so that we can determine if it's what it is that we're actually craving.
And how do you get to know your body? Like from the nutritional standpoint, I can tell you how to get to know your body sexually, but you tell me how to get to know your body nutritionally.
It's listening to your body. So, for example, if you eat something that let's say a couple hours later or even immediately doesn't agree with you, like you get gas, you get bloating, or you get a headache, that's listening to your body saying, okay, well, I just ate that, and it's tying it back, it's going back and saying, well, what did I just eat that could have created this? So it's listening to your body and the symptoms that your body is showing you, because our bodies tell us everything.
Right.
So it's a matter of opening up our minds and our ears and our sensations and saying, okay, so what is my body telling me? Was that food good for me or was it not? So I know, for example, when I eat something that is not good for me. So, for example, I'm gluten and wheat intolerant and I'm dairy intolerant. So I know if I eat something with dairy, then immediately I get gas and bloating. So my stomach is telling me, my digestive system is telling me, okay, Andrea, don't eat that because it's not feeling right for me.
Right. Okay. And then I want to ask you, just reminded me though, because last night my two little guys, my littlest ones, my 4 and 5-year-old, are lactose intolerant to some extent, not severely, but especially the 5-year-old, when he eats lactose, when he has milk, dairy products, he gets when he was a baby, he got really horrible, evil diaper rashes, like horrible.
Very common.
And now he just gets a very itchy anus. He would die if he knew. He's 5. He probably wouldn't care, but one day he will die, that I announced that on the radio. But he knows now, and we found this like natural kind of lactate sort of thing, that he takes every day because he loves dairy products, and it actually really helps. And it was so cute because last night they came up and they said, we found some whipping cream in the refrigerator. What do you do with that? And I said, you can make whipped cream, because it was after dinner. And they were like, really? And I gave them the recipe for whipped cream, and they were all excited, and they started making it. And then I hear my 5-year-old say, hey, I need my milk medicine, because he had made the connection that he was about to have whipping cream, and that was going to make his tushy itch. So
that's great.
So that's good. He's knowing his body.
That's
all right.
terrific.
Now, so what are the other mood-enhancing foods out there?
Well, one of the things we definitely recommend are omega-3s because they protect our brain and they affect our moods.
Mm-hmm.
So omega-3s are also known as essential fatty acids.
Right.
And, people have heard omega-3, omega-6. There's a lot of talk about it. So I would definitely recommend taking omega-3s because that definitely will affect our mood.
And what's the difference between omega-3 and omega-6?
Well, omega-3s are basically what most people are deficient in. Many people get omega-6s in our diets. We're supposed to have a 4-to-1 ratio of omega-6 to omega-3, but most people get 10-to-1. So
omega-6s are in what?
So omega-6s are in safflower oil, sunflower oil, a lot of the vegetable oils, whereas omega-3s are found in canola oil. It's actually a 2-to-1 ratio in canola oil.
Mm-hmm.
And also fish, sardines, herring, anchovies, salmon. Those are really great sources of omega-3s.
But you have to be careful not to get too much fish because then you get mercury. So are you a fan of the supplements then?
I'm an absolute fan of the supplements. And I look for supplements that I know are clean. So it's really important to find a company that they do third-party testing and that they remove all the contaminants like the heavy metals that you mentioned.
Can you remove them?
They can. It's in the process when they're actually creating, when they're extracting it in the process.
Because I've never completely trusted that. I'm like, yeah, sure, what are you going to put like a strainer on the oil and take out the mercury? I mean, how do you take out the mercury? But what do I know? I guess you can. All right, so we'll talk more about mood-enhancing foods, and also I want to ask you about this whole wheat and gluten thing because I'm hearing that everywhere, what that kind of allergy looks like, because I think a lot of us have that allergy and don't realize that. We also have some calls coming in that I want to get to, too, after the break with Andrea Donsky. You can call, too, if you have a question about food and your relationship with food or weight loss or food and mood and holistic nutrition on the Dr. Laura Berman Show. 866-OPRAH-XM, 866-677-2496.
Look out, baby. I'm in a dangerous mood. Look out, baby.
We're talking about food, nutrition with Andrea Donsky on the Dr. Laura Berman Show. She's a holistic nutritionist. Give me a call, 866, or give us a call, 866-OPRAH-XM. That's 866-677-2496. Milena, tell us your question. Welcome.
Hi, thanks, Dr. Berman. It's Milena.
Oh, Milena, sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. It's a hard one.
We need accents on my little screen so I can know which syllable to.
I have a 19-year-old daughter who goes to university. She still lives at home.
Okay.
And she's recently decided for humane purposes that she's no longer going to eat meat or eggs. She hasn't yet, or seafood or fish. She's just going to keep dairy in her life because that's just a little too much for her to go vegan.
Okay.
So my question is twofold. One, how can I ensure that she's getting all the right nutrients now that she's limiting her diet so much, especially protein? And then secondly, on the topic of mood, I noticed that as she's transitioning to this, I think she's hungry and she's trying not to carb load because she doesn't want to become, gain weight. Mm-hmm. And so she's grumpy.
Yeah. You know what? I'm going to throw this over to Andrea, but I will tell you this, Melina, right? Am I saying that right?
Yep.
That I became a vegetarian when I was 10 after a bird hunting trip with my dad. And I couldn't eat it after that. And I still have to I sometimes eat chicken and fish, but it has to be disguised. I force myself to eat it because my body really needs the nutrition. And I can tell you it's very hard to watch your carbs when you don't eat meat, and it's very hard to get enough protein, right? Andrea, so what do you do in a situation like that?
Well, there are vegetarian sources of protein like tofu. A half a cup of tofu has 20 grams of protein, so that's a really good source. There are also vegetarian protein powders, like rice protein, which has 12 grams of protein per tablespoon. So that's another really good way.
And you just make a shake out of that or something?
Correct. You make a shake, throw in some berries, some fruits to get your fiber. You can put in, some flax seeds, which will also give us some omega-3s.
And I remember learning that wheat berries and brown rice, when combined together, make a complete protein.
Complete protein, exactly.
So you can look at what makes those, because if you have to have a complete protein.
Correct.
Right.
in order for it to kick down. And there's also nut butters. 2 tablespoons of peanut butter have 8 grams of protein. There's high protein cereal, so there are different ways that she can get.
So you have to be
protein.
really conscientious of making sure.
That she gets
I would
her complete
say
protein.
40% of my life I've been anemic, just because if you get the slightest bit lazy. Finally, when I hit my 30s and I just had no energy, I spoke with this woman, sort of a trainer/nutritionist, and she said, if you could just choke down a little teeny piece of fish, it would have the same amount of protein as a whole plate of beans and rice. Is that true? So that's when I started. And I did actually started feeling a lot better when I started choking, forcing myself to eat a little bit of fish or chicken on a regular basis.
Well, it definitely takes more work when you're a vegetarian to make sure you get that complete protein.
Yeah.
So, there is more work.
And you have to eat more, don't you, of those complete proteins?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And, and to answer the second part of her question, there are, in terms of her mood, there are vegetarian sources of omega-3s that she can take. Chia seeds are a really good source. Walnuts, hemp seeds, flax seeds.
What are chia seeds?
The actual brand name is called salba seeds, but chia seeds have been around since the Aztecs, a long, long time.
Oh, yeah, someone sent me some of those. I remember that there was some magical Aztec quality that hard to get or something.
Well, they're a superfood. They're a whole food. They're high in antioxidants, and they're also high in fiber. They're high in omega-3s. They're one of my favorite foods.
And what do you do, just sprinkle them on stuff?
You could sprinkle them. They do absorb, a lot more than their actual size. They're these little seeds, and they absorb a lot of water, so it's important to drink a lot of water. But you can sprinkle them in yogurt, cereal. I take it straight from the spoon, but with water or some type of juice. But you can.
And can you get too much omega-3s? Can you overdose on omega-3s?
There is. Sure, you can if you're taking a lot. In terms of fish oil, you're taking a lot of it. More than let's say 4,000 or 5,000 milligrams a day. But I think you can't really. I think most of us will not overdose on omega-3s.
Okay. Yeah, because I like the idea of the little seed. I mean, it takes a lot of, I guess you kind of get into the habit, but I like the idea of the flax seed and the chia seeds and those things that you can just throw in other food and feel like, and I also like it because I can disguise them. I haven't tried the chia seeds, but I do flax meal a lot, and I disguise them in like a smoothie for my kids or sneak it into the oatmeal or something like that, and they don't even notice.
Yeah, and it's great to bake with it, too. And salad seeds, there's a great recipe on our website, naturallysavvy.com, that actually has a recipe for, this is not for vegetarian, it's salmon-encrusted chia seeds. And it's really delicious. And it also comes grounded up, so you can actually bake with it as well.
Okay. And one of the questions I'm gonna get to Billy in a second. I know Billy. Well, actually, this is relevant. My question is relevant to Billy. So, Billy, welcome to the Dr. Laura Berman Show. Tell us your question.
Dr. Berman, was actually a comment about food gave me my health back. I went in for a 50-year-old checkup in April. I'm the guy who does everything right, still weighs the same from college, works out regularly, cardio, the whole gamut, only to find out that sometimes there are things that aren't quite within our control. And I had had a declining platelet count over a year and a half, which hadn't been spotted. And one thing I would say to anybody is always ask for copies of your lab reports. But anyway, long story short, after multiple autoimmune disorders and to the point I was drinking caffeinated drinks, I'm a man that only drinks water and that's it, I was barely functioning. So went from optimum health to wow. A bone marrow biopsy showed that after they thought I would have leukemia, it showed that I had a condition that was the precursors to that. I asked what I could do, and they said, we'll see you every 30 days from now until. I go, that's not acceptable. I consulted a nutritionist and a holistic physician. And long story short, through nutrition, and the main thing that I had to educate myself was about alkalinity and acidity in the body. And even though I thought I did many things, there were still things just with what was going wrong with me, even though Eat Well was that. And I had noticed that I'd had much more sugar cravings was a big thing, so I'm not a big sugar eater over the past year or so. But I switched to nutrition and came off of 4 or 5 medications, saw a 35% increase in my platelet count for no medical reason that they could justify, and am no longer on medication. Now I go back to the oncologist once every 3 months. But I do believe they say that when the body is acidic, many things can go wrong with the body, and many people who they be obese, diabetic, even with a cold or whatever.
So you're saying you learned through your search, Billy, about this balance between alkalinity and acidity in the body. Do you know about this, Andrea?
Yeah, absolutely. There's, really great ways they say that illness can exist in an acidic environment. So when our body is alkaline, that illness cannot exist.
I would think it would be the opposite. It's interesting because, like, in the vagina, the sperm can't survive in an acidic environment. That's why you have lubrication, because the vagina is usually more acidic, and then the lubrication makes it more alkaline. So I always think of, like, the little sperms needing alkalinity to survive, and then I think, well, bacteria probably needs alkalinity to survive. But you're saying that you get less sick if you're, and is it the food you eat that enhances your alkalinity or acidity? And a professor once told me that vegetarians have more alkalinity. Is that true? Do proteins make you acidic?
It is true, and certain meats do make you acidic. And, it's such a timely question because we just posted an entire list of acid and alkaline food on naturallysavvy.com. So it was great timing. Yeah, it was great timing. And they say that green drinks are great to drink in terms of alkalinity.
You mean like the spirulina stuff that smells fishy, though? You'd have to drink it?
No, there's non-fishy too. Yeah, basically it's a greens powder.
Uh-huh.
And you put it into a glass, you shake it up with water or juice, and then you drink it, and that helps to alkalinize your body.
And I'm also hearing now that the grasses, I used to take this stuff called Amazing Grass, I think it was called, that I would put in my smoothies, and I was all excited because I was getting wheatgrass and this grass and that grass. And now someone just told me that grasses are not good, that you have to go more for the algae and things. What do you think?
Well, the algae are great, like chlorella and spirulina. I take them daily. Chlorella is great. It actually helps detoxify the body, and spirulina has protein. So I am actually a very big believer in the algae. I think they're terrific.
Yeah, and you also don't have a problem with the grasses?
I don't. I haven't heard that it isn't good for us. So.
Okay. All right. Well, that's good to know. So, and do you have to have a balance between the alkalinity and acidity, or do you just want things to be as alkaline as possible?
Well, you want things to be as alkaline as possible because you always want to keep your body in a proper balance. So balancing your diet with alkaline and acid foods, you usually want your diet to be 80% alkaline and 20% acidic.
Okay. All right. We'll have to check that list out. Olga, welcome to the Dr. Laura Berman Show. You have a question for Andrea Donsky, our holistic nutritionist?
Yes, I do. Thank you so much, Laura Berman, for taking my call.
Sure.
I actually been confused for many years, and when I heard about what you guys talking about, I definitely felt that I need to call you. It's about my husband. We've been married for several years, and he is in a very good shape. He works out. He drinks a lot of liquids. He eats protein and everything, and he controls his appetite during the day really well. But when the time comes past like 10 o'clock, it's like he turned to a different person, and he cannot control himself, and he empties the fridge at night. I had to actually lock the fridge for 5 years. Because every time, as I said, after 10 o'clock at night, he just goes.
Does he take a sleeping medication, Olga?
He doesn't.
He doesn't. Okay. And then I'm gonna throw this over to you, Andrea. But I'll just mention that I have learned from many prescribing psychiatrists that some of the sleep medications will actually create that behavior, so he doesn't have that problem. And that I don't know what the disorder is called, but there's a kind of sleepwalking where you eat, just like there's something called sexsomnia, where you have crazy sex with people in your sleep and you don't even remember it. I have also learned that there's this thing with eating. Is that what you're thinking this is, Andrea, or what is your reaction to this?
It could be so many people say that at night that's when they crave most of their sweets and they get, really hungry before bed. It could be several reasons. It could be an emotional response to something. It could be something that's habitual, something that's created in the environment that he's in. It could be several different reasons. So, I think what the important thing for him to do is maybe eat more regularly throughout the day, grazing throughout the day, and maybe eating more, maybe more protein in his diet that can help him maybe stave off from eating a lot at night.
And also, Olga, I would definitely, if it seems like because you said he sort of turns into a different person, he kind of is unconscious, and if that's happening, in addition to, making those behavioral changes that Andrea mentioned, to really consult a sleep expert, because it's possible that, if he's really he may not actually, when someone's sleepwalking, they seem like they're awake very often. it's the same thing with your kids and night terrors. When they start, like, they're halfway asleep and they're having a horrible, scary dream of some sort and you can't get through to them. They're just screaming and yelling and inconsolable and don't really even notice you're there. That's, it's kind of a form of sleepwalking that's kind of developmentally normal for kids. But when adults do it, it really is. They seem awake, but they're not. In fact, I have a girlfriend who started this eating thing with her, what's it called? The sleeping pills she was taking. The sleep aid she was taking, and she told me I was sleeping over at her house because she lives in the city that I was visiting, and we were sharing a bed like we always did when we had sleepovers, and she said to me, okay, this is the medication I'm taking, just don't let me eat. Like if I'm going to start wanting to go to the kitchen, just don't let me go. And I felt so bad. I was like, you told me not to let you go. I'm not going to let you go. And she's like, come on. She's having this whole conversation with me. And then another time I was sleeping over with her, she was going to sleep. I didn't even know she had taken the sleep medication. And sure enough, she starts saying, I'm hungry. I think I'm going to go to the kitchen. I was like, you took your sleep medication, didn't you? She's like, yeah. So, it's not unreasonable to see that kind of stuff, but I think the lifestyle changes are important not to rule out too. All right, so Andrea, thank you, Andrea Donsky, holistic nutritionist. You can find out all of her lists. You have lists of foods and things that we can make more alkaline or get more protein or different supplements, things like that on your website.
We do.
naturallysavvy.com. And
yes.
savvy spelled with 2 V's, just so you know, naturallysavvy.com. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope you'll come back because I still have a lot of questions.
Thank you for having me, and I'd love to.
All right. Take care. We'll be right back with your Sex RX on the Dr. Laura Berman Show. You're listening to Oprah Radio. It's XM 156 and Sirius 195. And if you have an iPhone, it's in the entertainment section of the Sirius XM app.